The Trouble in Paradise podcast is intended for mature audiences. This means you will hear realistic adult language such as and go off. Audience discretion is advised.
What is knob polishing?
You're gonna make me say this. I am a neglected man.
I like to think that I look like a jack, even though my name's really Bob.
Does he have danglers or something?
Well, it's time to go do them lighthouse duties.
Sitting in the cheese at the old Walmart to cool off.
That should be the headline. Man tasered in the nuts after stealing beef.
Yeah, but you're not gonna sit in the cheese. You're not gonna sit in the cheese, and you're not gonna put ribeyes down your pants either.
House cleaning is secondary. So what is the Viagra triangle?
Possibly we aid in your digestion.
I don't know if his little hand is smaller than his little ears or what.
Aw, well maybe he has a syndrome.
You want to go check out my RV? It's parked right around the corner. Because I'm pretty sure that I saw some moose knuckle.
No.
There is absolutely some moose knuckle going on.
My swampy friend. What the hell is a swampy friend?
I know. So they're not going to get any scraping on their shaft.
Yes, I'm going to do a downward dog.
Okay, pretty lady. You had on those gosh darn sexy leather looking shorts.
Ladies and gentlemen, and assholes, gather around. It's time for another action-packed episode of
Trouble in Paradise.
Hi, I'm Nigel Kent.
And I'm Jazmine Starr.
Welcome to Trouble in Paradise.
Our show is a free-thinking, open-minded podcast discussing conspiracy theories, the paranormal, true crimes against humanity, plus our favorite only in Florida stories. The content presented by Trouble in Paradise contains speculation and conjecture and is not intended as educational material or advice. It is therefore not misinformation and does adhere to YouTube's community guidelines.
It does absolutely adhere. We have just had 2 weeks go by since our last episode. This is episode 54 of Trouble in Paradise, and so much has happened in all of our categories that it ticks off all the boxes. We've got conspiracy theories. We've got crimes against humanity, true crimes against humanity. We've got only in Florida. It's just one big mashup with this horrendous collapse of the Surfside condominium tower in Surfside, Florida, North Miami Beach a couple weeks ago. We are going to dive into that subject this evening because it is a subject that has some interesting, I don't know if I would call them smoking guns or red flags, but there are definitely some questionable things going on with the chronology of events and the way the details of the collapse were reported. There's some very interesting on-the-street eyewitness testimony that does not match up with the official reports that we're going to be exploring. And, of course, we want everybody to know that this is citizen journalism, and it's intended to be respectful of everybody involved, everybody who lost a loved one, everybody who experienced pain or loss or fear or...
And we're very well aware that this is something that happened very, very close to home. And
very recently, too. In fact, we talked about renaming the show #TooSoon because some of these things,
exactly.
if you begin to question them right off the rip, some people just get offended by it. But we think that accurate, truthful, fact-based news reporting is essential to getting through these kinds of events as a community. And if we see things that don't line up, we're going to call them out. We don't really care who we offend when it comes to that. So, but it's intended to be with respect, and it's intended to get to the truth.
Definitely. And with respect, I think it goes without saying, both of us, with our utmost respect for the families that lost family members, or still have those family members that are missing from the collapse of this building.
Which I'm just going to go ahead and say at T plus 2.5, 3 weeks, they're gone. They're dead because they dumped another building on top of them a couple days ago when they collapsed the second tower. But before we get too far into our investigation of these matters, Jazmine Starr, how would you feel about letting people know how to get a hold of us should they choose to?
I had a feeling you were going to say that, Nigel. And to reach us, you can find us right here on our YouTube channel, Trouble in Paradise. Hit that like and subscribe button and join in on the live chat. We encourage you to do that. Feel free to give us your feedback, ask some questions, or just give us some impressions on what you think. On Instagram, you can find us at Trouble239, Twitter at Tipcast239, email trouble@trouble239.com, and Patreon at Trouble239. Audio is available on all major podcasters. Sorry, I'm having a little...
That's okay. Yep, we're on all the podcast platforms. But if you're going to leave us a review, please do so on iTunes. And please make sure it's a 5-star review. We appreciate that very much. Since episode 50, we have changed our basic format to concentrate primarily on conspiracy theories, true crimes against humanity, and our favorite only in Florida stories. As I said at the top of the show, this kind of integrates all of them. This is absolutely speculation and conjecture. We are going to talk about, I don't really have any theories, but I have there's a lot of indicators of potential conspiracy theories here in this Surfside collapse story. And I guess that right there makes it a conspiracy theory, right? We're theorizing here that the official narrative is not really plausible. And we also had the death of John McAfee, legendary billionaire, Internet 1.0 software king, who died in a Spanish prison ostensibly by suicide, although his wife and everybody else says there's no way he killed himself. So that happened in the last 2 weeks, just prior to the Surfside collapse. And then also there was an interesting underwater experiment conducted by the United States Navy. I believe it was the U.S. Navy, that occurred just a couple of days before the Surfside collapse, and that experiment was conducted not very far from Surfside, from North Miami Beach, out in the Atlantic Ocean. And it was a seismic sort of event, that experiment. So you have all these weird factors. So what do we want to do? We want to recap what happened. Maybe somebody's out there listening or watching that's never heard of Surfside. So you want to tell us what you know about what actually happened. What's the event that we're talking about here, Jazmine?
Surfside was a condominium unit that essentially the narrative is that due to as again I say the narrative is that through years of people complaining about poor infrastructure and everything, this building collapsed on its own, unprovocated, and unfortunately many people perished.
So what the official narrative claims is that because of structural problems in the building, up to and including, they've speculated that there could have been sinkholes, that there could have been pool drainage problems where water was damaging the support of the parking garage under the building. Due to any number of these structural engineering issues, the Surfside condominium complex collapsed in a matter of 8 seconds into its own footprint without damaging any nearby structures, in a perfect, neat little heap. That's what they're claiming. And there's an interesting story that I came across about something called pancake collapse. Have you ever heard of pancake collapse?
I have, but I'm not exactly familiar with it. I just know when I first saw the image, my immediate was It was very reminiscent of the 9/11, and
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh, when the first time I saw the video, I
I
said,
was like, controlled demo.
I said, there's no way this is real. There's no way this is legit. When I
was
saw the
like-
video, I said, they blew that building up.
I was
There's
like,
no
controlled
question.
demo. I want to hear eyewitness accounts that were there. I wanted I went back and I was scrubbing through the one static, or not static, but the one image, the one video image that they were showing people.
They
The
released
one camera
It's true.
angle.
There's one camera, despite there being 7 or 8 nearby security cameras, all within eye shot of the event. They only released one video, and it was taken from from the other side of a sports complex located about a half to 3/4 of a mile down the road, Collins Avenue, which is A1A. I believe that's the southbound side of A1A.
Right.
And for anybody that's not from Florida, A1A is basically the seaside highway that goes all the way from Jacksonville all the way down to mile 0 in Key West.
Right. Now I have no doubt, based on what I've been able to look at so far, that yes, there were, potentially some engineering problems and stuff like that, and we'll get into that. But there are definitely some questions.
My biggest question is, if engineering problems take a while to prove, which they do, why was all the media running with the condo collapse due to structural problems in the building because of pool leakage, because of plumbing problems, and because of a sinkhole story before anybody of credibility was able to confirm that that's actually what caused the collapse? And furthermore, if they were evaluating the structural integrity of the building, why in the hell did they go ahead and proceed with exploding the other portion of the building to bring it down within days of the original collapse? If they wanted to find out about the structural integrity of the building, wouldn't it make sense to study it while it's still up?
Right. Now, the narrative that I heard today, both by the, I believe it was the fire police chief in Miami-Dade County, and also the
mayor of Surfside?
she spoke as well, but the police officer that spoke as well, he was saying both the police chief. Let me go back there. The police chief was saying that it was the threat of the overhead debris, which I could understand, plausible.
Meaning that they wanted to bring the building down because they were afraid that that things were going to fall on them.
That as they were walking, that if something were to come down, it could easily kill one of the people that were there to help. Okay.
That's what construction scaffolding is for, but I guess that's a moot point. They forgot about that primitive technology.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that their explanations don't make any sense. If you're worried about debris falling, there's ways to protect against debris falling, like putting up other structures to bounce the debris off of the
Right.
impact zone. Yeah.
Exactly.
That way you can go ahead and try to find more bodies that are stuck under the rubble.
Exactly.
But nope, let's just blow up more shit and create a bigger pile.
And then, and unfortunately, the audio was poor, but they were referring to a previous crime scene the day before, and to the police chief of Miami-Dade that was speaking, and then the effect that had with Surfside coming down, and how that was going to be impacting then with that investigation. And
So the Miami-Dade police chief referred to the original collapse
he did
zone
not.
as...
This was a reporter. And like I said, her question, like the audio was terrible.
But she referred to it as a crime scene, rightfully so.
No, the day prior to the
original collapse.
Yes.
There was a crime going on.
That there was an active crime scene that was being investigated. And
but we don't know what crime.
And because the audio was so poor. This was on the NBC2.
And what was the police chief's
Live
response to that inquiry?
He did the hem and haw, and he said, unfortunately, due to it being an open investigation,
he can't talk about it.
Exactly.
So we don't know what that original crime was. Could have been a mugging, a robbery, who knows? A car theft. Who really even knows, right? But it's interesting, though. Everybody seemed to be in complete acquiescence to the idea that other tower had to come down, even though there's plenty of reasons, just from a purely forensic standpoint, why you wouldn't want that other tower to come down.
Well, they said it was Elsa. That was that at first was the official narrative. It had nothing to do with the safety of the debris and blah blah blah. They were saying, "Oh well, Elsa's coming, so we need to."
Let me ask you something.
Let's demo this other building.
If a tropical storm is coming,
and they weren't even in the cone of,
and you're afraid that the tropical storm is going to make the building fall down, then what damn difference does it make if the building falls down because of the tropical storm or because of bombs that you put in it to bring it down? And this is where I think people really need to get a laser focus on what's actually happening over there in Surfside. They rushed, and here's the thing. Everybody knew Elsa was going to the Gulf side a week in advance. Mm-hmm. There was nothing sent. It was on the east end of Cuba by the time they were talking about taking the rest of that crime scene down, or taking the rest of that tower down, I mean. So if 90% of the meteorologists agreed Elsa wasn't coming up the Atlantic, wasn't coming Miami way, then why would you use Elsa as an excuse? Oh, we've got to do this. We've got to make it safe. We're going to go ahead and bomb the rest of it. And how in the world do you get somebody to come in and load it up with charges within a matter of days safely without any prior inspection of the building for controlled demolition? An experienced demo contractor would refuse that job. There is something so fishy about this that it stinks, Jasmine Starr.
Well,
it stinks bad, smells bad.
Well, they already had NIST there.
NIST was on site?
Absolutely.
All right, the truth tellers over at NIST. Thank you very much. So in the story about pancake collapse, we're going to talk about pancake collapse because that's what they pinned this on. Basically, what they're saying is a pancake collapse is how high-rise buildings, such as the Twin Towers and the Surfside condo, collapse into their own footprint without toppling over or falling laterally. It says pancake, and this is from, I believe this is from the LA Times this is like an explainer about how it happened, right? It says pancake collapses occur frequently after major earthquakes when tremors damage the load-bearing structures in a building or a bridge. These kinds of collapses aren't common in Florida. And what they really meant to say there is that they're not common at all. They weren't.
Right.
They were never mentioned prior to 2001. Where not common in Florida, where buildings are much more vulnerable to wind damage than an earthquake, said Jeffrey Lindsay, a fire and emergency services coordinator and lecturer at the University of Florida. Lindsay pointed to a notable example of a pancake collapse in Oakland, California. A 1989 earthquake caused the upper deck of a freeway to collapse onto the lower level, raining debris onto cars traveling below it, the Los Angeles Times reported at the time. But the fall of the World Trade Center's Twin Towers in the 9/11 attacks is likely the most notable and dramatic example of a pancake. When the hijacked planes struck the side of the towers, They damaged the tower's vertical bearing capacity, which eventually sent the top floors careening down into the rest of the building. Any kind of damage to a building's foundation or critical support structures can trigger a pancake failure. So, in explaining what happened at Surfside, these guys cite 2 examples, one of which isn't even a high-rise, and the other of which is the only other notable example of a so-called pancake collapse ever. Okay? Mm-hmm. So it's happened before in 2001 with the World Trade Centers. Also a controlled demolition.
Exactly.
It's like they're giving the conspiracy theorists all the meat they need to chew on.
Right. And as you said, the Navy had this offshore
experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Which could have caused some underground issues or some seismic issues, but let's not go there yet.
Well, in history, if we want to look back in history has shown that explosions underwater do and have
and
caused...
we're going to come back around to that.
Okay.
So in the Surfside condo collapse, there has been speculation that there was damage to the foundation, either because of a sinkhole, because of a long-term water leaking, water drainage problem having to do with the common area pool, in the garage, things like that. Water
so a
leaking,
little
seeping
drip
into the garage.
They're trying to say a little drip caused that whole building
A
to
little
come
drip
down?
over a period of 40 years is what they're saying. Now, that there is some plausibility to that. I happen to be going through a water drainage issue right now in my home, and it has been a long, drawn-out process to just figure out where it even started. So I think that there's some plausibility to the idea that the building could be damaged over the long term by a slow drip from the pool. However,
do you
I've
think
never
yours is
heard-
going to come down like a pancake, though?
No, it's because pancake collapse is a made-up structural paradigm. That's like, it's the odds of that happening are, it's literally next to impossible for the whole thing to collapse downward into a nice, neat little pile in its own footprint. And if it's because of foundation issues, we're talking about a steel frame building here. If it's because of foundation issues, why didn't the Leaning Tower of Pisa collapse into its own footprint? Why did it lean?
And
You got to think about, why did it lean? It was made out of slabs of stone, but it didn't fall into its own footprint.
And then why, if we want to go and let's cite the mainstream media, which I hate to do even.
Okay.
But why did the police chief today even say that when they were examining and sending off a piece of the concrete, the initial piece of concrete appeared to be structurally sound?
Yep. So the materials in the Surfside building that they took from the collapse site, which they sent off to have analyzed, their initial response...
The initial concrete appeared to be structurally sound, people.
Yeah. So what does that mean? It means that there was something else going on. And it's not our job necessarily here to figure out what that something else is, but there are some interesting testimony from witnesses that were on the scene, either inside the building or around the building at the time of the collapse. And I wanted to step through a couple of bits and pieces about that.
Okay.
One of the telltale signs of a controlled demolition is a characteristic boom boom or a sequence of booms just prior to the actual collapse.
Yep.
In some cases, these are sequential booms where charges are being set off at different points, at different levels within the structure. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they may be using cutting charges, which don't make as much noise. And then maybe you would have like an explosion in the foundation of a structure in order to take away the bottom of it and create a vacuum or a void, a space in which everything can fall, or to take out that center column to make sure that everything falls inward instead of outward. But at any rate, this boom, boom, boom pattern, people who have looked at controlled demolitions, and I'm no expert, as I just demonstrated with that, the way I explained that probably didn't make much sense, but whenever there's a controlled demolition of a tower that's made of steel and concrete, people observing that controlled demolition always report hearing or seeing and hearing a sequence of explosive events or moments, and they always use the same term, and that's boom. So whereas the sound of the actual building falling into itself is characterized more like a freight train or a tornado or a rumbling, long, thunderous kind of earthquake sort of thing.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So you would expect then that if explosives weren't used, that the vast majority of eyes and ears on the street would not have reported anything about explosive sounds or boom booms, and that their recollection or replay, their verbal replay of what they saw, would have included a lot of freight train rumbling, tornado, long drawn out kind of earthquakey kind of descriptions. Mm-hmm. Or at least you would have equal amounts of both, because people don't forget the sequence in which things happen, right? When shit's going down, you're like heightened awareness and you keep track. You don't realize you're doing it, but you're paying attention more. It's like when you wake up in the middle of the night, you're instantly awake if you hear something that's not quite right,
Right.
So, and there are multiple examples of this, even on TV. The morning after the Surfside collapse, when everybody was reporting it for the first time on the news, Chuck Todd on MSNBC pointed out a flash of light at the top of the building just prior to the collapse. And then after that video was shown, no subsequent video even shows the building before the collapse, only as it's falling. Several days later on MSNBC, Andrea Mitchell interviewed a witness who heard explosions. And that witness may or may not be one of these witnesses that we're referring to here in our notes. But there was an individual by the name of Coney who said, quote, "I went to take a shower." I believe this is a resident of the structure. Mm-hmm. "I went to take a shower. I got out of the shower and dried off, and I was about to get dressed, and then I heard a loud boom. I just grabbed my robe and towel and ran out. I left everything in the apartment, my phone, my wallet. About to get dressed, and then I heard a loud boom." So this guy or girl, Coney, is that a guy or a girl's name?
I am not sure.
Let's just assume it's a guy. So this dude's about to get dressed, he says, meaning he's naked. He just gets out of the shower and he hears a boom. Now, from the moment of naked to the moment of being clothed enough to run out, how long does that take? 20 seconds? 25 seconds? Keep that in the back pocket, okay?
Okay.
Says, "I left everything in the apartment, my phone, my wallet. I just ran out because I thought the entire roof and the entire building were about to collapse."
Okay, so I would say he was hauling butt if he thought,
But here's the thing. If he heard the boom and he still had that much time to get out before the whole thing came down, that's a detonation. That's not the sound of the building falling.
Right.
That's the sound of a detonation. At least that's what I theorize. He continues, and then I saw that was slowly approaching me in the apartment. I said to myself, "I have to get out of here," and I ran away. I met my family, and they told me, come on, we have to get out of here." So now we're talking about a matter of minutes, potentially, before, and they're still in the building. Coney explained how he managed to escape with his family while the building was shaking. "We were the first people to leave, and we saw another family that had just arrived, and they said they had gotten out of the elevator and heard how the elevator sounded boom, boom, boom," he concluded. Now, how the elevator sounded boom, boom, boom. You don't say boom, boom, boom unless you're hearing multiple explosive forces or explosive events, right? So then there's another gentleman by the name of Mashi Candiati. And Mashi says, "I felt the house shaking." And must be a neighbor nearby. "I felt the house shaking the bed, and then I got on the floor and it shakes again. Then I went to the balcony and I saw smoke, dust from both sides of the building, and I didn't realize the whole building collapsed. But then I heard a crumbling noise, boom, 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 like an earthquake. said Moshe Candiati, who lived in the collapsed building, apparently. Then after that, I picked up my senses and I ran out to the stairs when the fire department came and helped me because I was full of dust. My whole body was full of dust. So it sounds to me like this guy was partially trapped in the collapse. Mm-hmm. But again, looking at the sequence of events, he reports a boom, boom, boom prior to running out of the building. And it does say that he was a resident of the building. Then you have another report of multiple explosions in succession. This is from a man named Julian Targowski, who was quoted by the Times of Malta. It says, one witness, 25-year-old Julian Targowski, described the sound of the collapse. It was like a very bassy boom, 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 that kind of thing, he told local television WFOR. Like a ton of bass on a subwoofer, like just two of them. Then my friend texted me that a building had exploded. And I take that as a ground level witness referring to the distant noise of the two, possibly the two moments of collapse. Then noise before the collapse, according to WPTV, this was from a witness whose name is Roberto Castillero. It was a lot of noise, Castillero said. Quote, then my wife told me, we got to leave here. That building is going to go down. So this is a ground level witness referring to a lot of noise, quote unquote, a lot of noise before his wife says, we got to leave here. That building is going to go down. So we're talking about we now have 4 people who report a lot of noise or sequences of noise before the building came down. So this kind of combined with the whole fairy tale of a pancake collapse, it just doesn't add up. They're talking about sounds coming from ground level, people witnessing these sounds, these boom, boom, boom sounds in sequence, inside the building, outside the building, people around the building. There's 5 or 6 different eyewitness testimonies, and these are just what I could find in 2 days.
Right.
So, I mean, to me, that kind of says there's a little something more going on here. You can't have the same people having the same sort of hysteria in the same way.
Right.
In the same event. And the same thing happened at 9/11 because there's so many firefighters in the FDNY who reported boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Prior to
the charges prior
yes,
to.
Yeah. So I think that there's some remarkable similarities there. And that concerns me quite a bit. Now you were talking about a Navy experiment that you wanted to talk that may have caused some seismic concerns too. So maybe we should.
Yeah. Because I find that very interesting. It's documented. It's known that that sometimes that we'll have seismic activity when charges are being set off underwater that have been known to cause earthquakes to structures in other countries nearby. One of the most probably well-known ones was a major earthquake that occurred off of the coast of China due to a detonation of
Go ahead. You know that story. You've got the inside info on that. Tell that story, please. Don't name any names.
Due to a warhead that had been detonated off of the coast of China, it caused a major earthquake in China that took down several structures and
what year
killed
was this?
many people.
What year was that?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you.
Okay, 20 years ago, 10 years ago?
Over 20.
Over 20 years ago. So this is not unprecedented. And what we're looking at here is a story about the U.S. Navy detonating a 40,000-pound bomb off the Florida coast 2 days before the collapse of the building, the Surfside condo in Miami, in North Miami Beach, Surfside.
And we have Kim on a live chat saying drilling nearby is what she had heard.
Okay. I haven't heard about the drilling, although I know that there are issues with offshore drilling and also hydraulic fracturing that create seismic problems. This story from Common Dreams, written by a guy named Brett Wilkins, is a story mainly with a theme of conservation of marine life, which God only knows how many things they killed with a 40,000-pound bomb test off the Florida coast. But this occurred on June 18th, 100 miles off Palm Coast, as the first in a series of full ship shock trials on the USS Gerald Ford, $12.8 billion nuclear aircraft carrier. So shock trials of new ship designs using live explosives to confirm that our warships can continue to meet demanding mission requirements under harsh conditions they might encounter in battle. So I guess this is to make sure that they have enough structural integrity to survive large bomb blasts underwater. It seems like a pretty reasonable thing to do if you just spent $12 billion on a aircraft carrier. If spending that kind of money is your thing, I mean.
Why not? We're given $10 billion to send some jackhole up into low orbit for 10 minutes. So why not do this too?
All right. So that was covered on our previous episode. What was that? The phallic, what did you call it? The cock rocket?
Jeff Bezos cock rocket.
The Jeff Bezos cock
Blue
rocket.
Orchid. Yeah. We won't get into that. We are running out of time, but.
Well, I mean, what did you want to have a quick segue?
No, we'll keep on going.
No more cock rocket talk.
No, but we've got a great follow-up episode.
So there was this bomb test not far, within a few hundred miles of the Surfside condo collapse. Now, here's why I don't necessarily ascribe much to this explanation. For starters, there are a lot of other condos and high-rises in Surfside that are that age or older, taller, shorter, fatter, wider. Nothing was damaged. No other structures fell. And so you would think that if there was this big, massive 40,000-pound bomb,
right,
that there might be damage to those other structures as well. And, it's early yet. Maybe time will tell that this bomb test caused a lot more problems than this was just the first of many. I'd like to think that it was something easily understood like that and easily explained than to be some deep, much more evil conspiracy or some darker conspiracy. Now, one thing that I found very, very interesting was that the Israeli government somehow had their military search and rescue teams on the scene almost immediately after all of this crap started. I mean, like within days, I forget what the name of the department is, but this group here that we see on the screen, Israeli search and rescue, militarized search and rescue, in and out within a couple of days.
Yep.
And then suddenly we've decided we have to destroy the other tower, which is also peculiar. Now, can you think of any other incident that you're aware of in American history where the Israeli Urban Search and Rescue Task Force needed to be present to assist American law enforcement or first responders ever?
Not that I'm aware of.
I've never heard of that either.
No.
In fact, it made me scratch my head when I read it.
No. Me too. And that they were. Thank you for your effort and your honor, but I hope that all of the other states and agencies that came in to help in the search and rescue of the recovery efforts also receive the same honor that the Israelis did, because they were definitely put on a pedestal.
Yeah.
By the both the mayor and the fire police chief of Miami-Dade County.
Yeah, they were. It was a big deal for a minute, wasn't it?
That just today, and I mean, there were responders from multiple states, and if they're subscribers of ours, thank you for coming into our backyard and helping with that.
Maybe they can unblur our camera for us. we got some bandwidth issues on our camera here, but it's interesting too, because why wouldn't domestic search and rescue be sufficient?
Right. We have so many resources.
Since when do foreign governments come and do third world rescue shit in the United States?
And did you find something, or did I misread something that you told me about the cameras all being like confiscated, all the different camera angles?
Well, that's a theory of mine, because there are tons and tons of ground level security cameras, and I have gone through Google Street View and taken pictures of many of them.
Oh, we found multiple. Even right across the street at the sister building, there was one.
On the other side of the complex, there's cameras literally facing the tower that fell down. And yet the camera footage that they release is from this shit-ass traffic cam that's half a mile, 3/4 of a mile away.
Right.
And with no audio?
Right.
Come on.
And the camera that we were able, the one specifically that we were zooming in on was a dome camera that was right on the front doors, pointing towards the, would you say right towards the seaside?
Yeah, it was pointed right at the loading dock for the seaside, for the tower that came down.
I'm sorry, Surfside. I keep wanting to say.
saying, yeah, well, you're getting me saying it now, so cut that out.
I'm sorry.
Surfside.
I'm sorry. I'm like, it takes me back to towards my Jersey days.
Yeah. So there's several cameras. I'll see if I can pull them up real quick. But they face, these cameras face areas that either cover the entire building or a portion of it.
It's like, where are, and they're visible. So it's like, why?
Here.
Where are these videos of pre and post collapse, during the collapse?
Yeah.
Why are they confiscated? Why are they not available to the public to view?
Yeah. Well, maybe
I understand. Yes, there is an ongoing investigation. Will they all come out? Who knows? How many years later was it before we actually got to see more 9/11 footage?
Well, that's an excellent point. Yeah, there was just some new footage that came out about 6 months ago that was taken by an old VHS camcorder. Remember those kids that released that new footage?
Yes, they were right on the roof, and
yeah, and it was not helpful to the official narrative.
Right here, you've got it pulled up right there. It says dome camera.
Yeah, so you can see. I don't know if you can see where I'm marking this here. Yeah, there it is. You can see that there's a dome camera There's an east-west street that was just north of the tower that fell. It ran between the two towers in the complex, and this is a dome cam that would have been designed to pick up foot traffic in this entrance right here. This one almost certainly would have seen some of the collapse, if not the entire thing. There's another picture of it. Okay, then you have this is the actual garage entrance of the tower that fell. You've got a bullet cam right here. And now, if these guys do their video security the way most guys do their video security, then this would have been streamed off-site immediately and would be still available. This is the parking garage that is directly to the north and facing the building. Now, I'm not sure with this extreme angle if this bullet cam would have been able to pick up any of the collapse, but it just goes to show you that there was a lot more surveillance available. And then you have another dome cam here, which I'll try to mark it. There's two of them. One's facing Collins and one's facing due north. And this over here is where the tower that fell down is. So you have one, possibly two more camera angles. So there's 4 or 5 cameras just right there that would have certainly caught additional views of the collapse that were never used.
And yet we only are able to see that one view.
Yeah, it's just the one view from
it's of the collapse only.
Yeah. It's from down the street. I had a picture of that cam too, but I don't think I saved it.
Yeah, it was on
It was pretty unremarkable.
But your standard, was it on it a traffic light or on a...
It's next to a traffic signal. It's there's 3 laser banks for speed detection with cameras, and I think that's the one they used to show the official footage because it's pretty good in the middle of the night.
Right. And it would have been the appropriate height and everything in order to capture the the entire building.
Well, since we're on the subject, let's pull that up right now. Let's see if we can find that. Surfside condo collapse video. And I bet you we can find the exact spot where this came down. This is all post collapse.
I do know, just for anybody that's counting or keeping track of numbers, as of today, this morning, the recovered were 90 and 71 had been
recovered bodies, you mean?
Bodies, yes.
Yeah.
And the 71 had been, next of kin had been notified. They were still trying to notify the remainder. So
Kim, I agree with you. I think that there's a little bit of concealment going on. To your point about, sounds like they're hiding something. Yeah, it really does, doesn't it? But I think that the toughest thing for me is to read the testimony of the people that were on the street that heard sequential explosions prior to the collapse of the building. Now, I really, really hope that I'm wrong. And I really, really hope that these people are just interjecting their own sort of hysteria into it.
right.
Because if I'm wrong and they're wrong and it really did fall because of a leaky swimming pool, then we're going to learn a lot more about how to build buildings in Florida and make them last. And that concerns me greatly because I live in Florida and I wouldn't mind having a condo in North Miami Beach and Surfside. Like, that would be pretty cool. But seeing something like this happens, does that make you want to buy a high-rise condo now at this point? I mean, real estate's got to be tanking over there.
Oh,
I know that wouldn't be your style anyway.
a high rise in Miami Beach
Yeah. I mean,
with a pool on the roof.
might be a good place to visit.
Wow. Doesn't sound so bad to me, but wouldn't be as many mosquitoes around than around here, that's for sure.
Yeah, I could do without the mosquitoes that we have over here.
But no, I'm just I'm not Miami material.
All right. So this is an advertisement which they're making us watch before every single replay of this video because I didn't screen cap it. And didn't take the time to screen cap the video, so we get to watch this ad. It says, what we're going to be watching here in about 10 seconds is surveillance footage shows the moment that a 12-story condominium building on Surfside collapsed. Warning, footage may be disturbing, absolutely disturbing. Here it goes. Okay, so we're going to replay this. Let me bring this back down out of full screen so that we can see it. And this is the video. Notice how the flashes at the top.
I immediately noticed that.
This video is shorter than the original video that was posted.
Right.
The other thing, too, is they have, for some reason, they have permanently destabilized this camera. It looks like it's being held by hand. And I know that's not the case because it's a surveillance camera. Mm-hmm. No surveillance camera waves around. See how the whole thing is moving? Well, it's probably because somebody had this pointed at a monitor that they were watching it off of, and that may also explain the lack of audio. But there's a lot of concerns here. You can see flashes during the collapse.
I would be, okay, you know, at the beginning you mentioned, like, statistically, you mentioned the California statistics on pancake collapse and everything, and they were saying how rare it is. It's generally seismic activity and everything. Mm-hmm. I would be, you know, I'd be curious to go and look into that, like, worldwide.
How many pancake collapses there have ever been? That's what I was trying to do.
You know, try to really get a ratio and just to see the rarity of it. It's not to say that this isn't rare. Go back one more time.
I think pancake collapses are incredibly rare.
Go back one more time. Did you see it? Notice a flash on the right of the tower?
It doesn't let you freeze frame it. You got to be kidding me.
On the right of the one tower, boom, right there.
Yep.
Do you see that?
Yeah, it's at the bottom.
Yeah. And that's the part that is troubling to me.
There's multiple detonations and explosions during the collapse that are consistent with controlled demolition.
And, you know, I hate to say this, but, you know, I was not a fan on Twitter whenever I tweeted this. Yeah, I just...
it's too perfect to be accidental. I mean, it really...
If you just watch enough videos of controlled demolition drops, like precision drops, it really makes it questionable.
It does, yeah.
To say that it 100% is up in the air.
Well, I'm not a demolition contractor, and I'm not a structural engineering expert, but I know there's some common sense that you have to factor in here. This is why so many people, millions of people, have a real problem with the 9/11 story, for the same reasons. Because if you fly, you know, an airplane that's the equivalent of a mosquito flying into the side of a cactus, that cactus is not coming down.
Right.
Under any circumstances.
Right. And we did our own, you know, evaluation on how big those beams were, how long it would take to melt, the temperature. Yeah. And, you know, we went through all of that in one of our previous episodes.
Yeah, the colors of 9/11. Go back and check it out, guys, if you want on YouTube.
If you want on like the structural side of things, that's another good one. Something.
But when experts cite pancake collapse, they only have a couple examples where it's ever been invoked. One of them is 9/11, and they conveniently leave out Tower 7. They don't mention Tower 7, even though it's the better example of a pancake collapse because they claim that it was caused by structural damage produced by impacts from the first two planes hitting the towers or whatever the official story is.
But yet they had enough time to...
Well, they don't want to mention Tower 7 anymore.
No, yet they had enough time to remove many Brinks trucks full of...
We're going to go full 9/11 now.
No, we're not. No, we're not.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. It is the 20th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, and
I agree with you. We're not being told the truth on this. I'm in agreement with you.
there's too many question marks. So, quick recap.
Yeah.
We've got the witnesses on the street reporting multiple booms. We've got the witnesses in the tower reporting multiple booms prior to the building collapse. We've got multiple narratives by eyewitnesses who indicate that they had enough time to escape the building after the initial sound of booms, but prior to the building collapse.
Yep.
We've got this 40,000-pound bomb experiment, which God only knows what that may have had to do with it, if anything. It could be a crazy coincidence. We don't know. Got the complete lack of security footage, even though there's many cameras that could have and should have picked up visual evidence of the collapse. You have the nation of Israel sending their military urban search and rescue squads on a moment's notice.
Right.
It almost makes you think that there may have been a vested interest, right?
And receiving, this, the big honor, both by the mayor of the city.
Yeah, they were sort of heralded.
They were very much so in the vigil.
That reminds
the parade
me.
that they held a parade last night. I forgot the exact name of the parade. You'll have to pardon me for that, but
It was the building collapse, the pancake collapse parade.
But they were showing all the responders and thanking them for their service because. And here's the other thing, because one of the reporters asked how many of the other because they kind of questioned why or when they were leaving, and
why are they leaving now?
Like-
why are these Israeli helpers all of a sudden leaving now?
It's like
instead of getting the other bodies out from the pile. That are the other 100 and some that are still missing.
They've reached as of this morning, according to that report, they had reached they were starting to reach the level of the cars in the garage.
Yeah.
They did mention that they did find, the narrative is that they did find that the stairwells, which would have been, again, here we go with 9/11 parallels, but that the stairwells would have been the area of reprieve for people to seek safety and shelter. But however, in this situation, unfortunately, that's where they found several of the deceased.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the interesting remark of the firefighter's daughter when they said that they found our...
Yeah, so there was a FEMA agent. We'll have to dig up the video, but this is very curious that you mentioned this because there was a federal officer and a federal emergency management officer who was on the ground at the Surfside collapse who referred to a local fire department's firefighter's daughter as our firefighter's daughter. And the girl who died in the collapse was, in fact, the daughter of a Surfside or Miami-Dade. I don't know how the jurisdictions work, but a local firefighter there on the island.
Right.
And yet here you have this Johnny-come-lately FEMA officer who referred to her as our firefighter's daughter, which was just a little weird. A little weird, right?
Now, and I would be personally, like, if that were my child, I would be so offended and hurt by that statement.
Yes.
After just experiencing the loss of my 7-year-old child.
Yeah. Hashtag too soon. Yep.
Yes, exactly.
And then there's the quote that ends all quotes from the mayor of Surfside the morning after. Quote, Mayor Burkett said, "It's hard to imagine how this could have happened. Buildings just don't fall down. There's no reason for this building to go down like that unless somebody literally pulls the supports out from underneath." And again, he used the word...
there goes my goosebumps.
He just used the word pulls, which is a demolition term. So that could either be a slip of the tongue or an innocent misplacement of words.
Well, she just might have let the cat out of the bag on that one.
And speaking of letting the cat out of the bag, how do we let our watchers, listeners, and other interested parties get in touch with us? I know they can email us at trouble@trouble239.com. That's trouble@trouble239.com. And how else can people get a hold of us, Jazmine Star?
You can find us on Instagram at trouble239, Twitter at tipcast239, Patreon, Trouble239. We're on all major podcasters, especially hit us up, the audio versions on Apple, iTunes. And for those of you that participated in the chat, thank you. We love it when you're there and participating. It makes it fun for us.
We do this every 2 weeks. We're here every other Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, live streaming on YouTube.
Yes.
So we would love for you to come back. If you don't get notifications, please click on the little notification bell. That way you can know when our live streams go live.
Yeah, hit that like and subscribe. That way you know when we're going. We will be taking a little trip.
We'll be streaming from the road.
So Trouble in Paradise, you're going to get a little taste of us.
Yeah, from the road. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we will be coming at you. Our next show, is it our next show or the one after? We'll be coming at you from someplace between here and Texas. But we'll let you know how that goes.
Yeah.
In the meantime, there's plenty of things to follow up with the Surfside collapse. Again, this is presented with the utmost respect for everybody who was harmed or killed, and for those who love them and care about them and who have experienced loss. It is not our intention to disrespect anybody who went through that.
Absolutely not.
And to make sure that this article or that this video and audio does not get censored, Jazmine has a special statement that she would like to make before we sign off.
I do. And again, for myself, prayers out to the family and friends of those who lost somebody and were affected by anyone there in Miami at Surfside. The content presented by Trouble in Paradise contains speculation and conjecture and is not intended as educational material or advice. It is therefore not misinformation and does adhere to YouTube's community guidelines.
All right. Well, I guess we better stay out of trouble.
You know what?
What?
How do you turn that